Our next speaker is going to give us a walkthrough of the graphic image manipulation program.
New image manipulation program.
The new graphic image manipulation program. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello.
Oh,
Just conked out.
does the lavalier mic not work?
Let's see. Hear me? There. Oh, yeah. All right. Okay, finally. Okay. Yeah, like somebody yelled out, the new image, what was it, image editing program? Anyway, this is the open source equivalent of Photoshop. Everybody's heard of Photoshop. The program made by Adobe that costs $700. Well, this costs no dollars, which makes it all that much more fabulous. So with everybody running around now with phones that have cameras on it and taking pictures of themselves in the mirror and things like that, there's a need for a good image editing program. Probably every magazine that you see on the stand today has photoshopped images on it. I mean, it's more often that a image in a magazine will be photoshopped than it will be not. So anyway, GIMP is comparable to Photoshop. It has a lot of the features that Photoshop has. The ability to work in layers, where you can put picture on top of pictures, pictures in front of pictures, pictures behind pictures, and change the order. You can literally pull apart a picture into its component parts, or with in it. You know, separate the sky from the lake, from the shore, from the trees in front to the trees in back. I'm just going to go over and show you a few things. Probably the most, for somebody who's not experienced using a program like this, the first thing that you could do that would have immediate application and not too difficult to learn would be correcting overexposures and underexposures. With automatic cameras these days, they're supposed to give you a correct exposure, but they always don't. The camera can be fooled by different things. Light coming from somewhere behind a person can overexpose. Not enough light in the room, it can be underexposed. So having overexposed and underexposed pictures can still be saved by using this program. So I'll show you basically how we would go about doing that. Oh, sorry. Yes.
What do you mean overexposed or underexposed?
Okay. I will show you an example on the screen, and we will discuss that. Underexposed is when there's not enough light to light up the scene that you're taking a picture of. Like in here, if I was to take a picture of the audience in front of me, people in the back would be in the shadows because it's just this light. Now, if I put a flash on the camera, that would light everybody up, and I would have a normal exposure. Sometimes when you're taking pictures, your camera doesn't go off at the right time, or your flash doesn't go off at the right time, or it might not go off at all, or your finger might be in front of the flash when you're taking your picture. Mistakes happen all the time, and what this program is about is correcting those mistakes. So let's start with an underexposed picture. Okay, as you can see here, in this area, you can't see the detail on the front of this building. Up here, there's enough exposure to see slight detail in, you know, the texture of the wood, and you can see the spokes on the wheel. But back here, you can barely just see these windows that are in the building. So what we would do, well, hold on a second. I will have to open this in GIMP. Let me see. Oh, here we are. Okay, we'll try this one. Okay. Oh, that's not, I'm gonna get, well, that's okay, we'll do this one too. Same thing, in a different picture, but as you can see, we're at the seashore here, and this area in here is lacking in detail. So what we would do is, we would go here to colors, curves. Okay, this grid here, what this represents, this line here, down here, represents the shadow areas. We have detail in the shadow areas, but not so much, and no information up in the highlight area. So coming across from here, this represents your shadows, this represents, you know, your highlights. The brightest highlight in this picture is the sun right there. So what we're gonna do is, what we wanna do is boost the middle tones, which will be this area right here. So I grab onto this line here, which is like a rubber band, and I lift it up like this. And as you can see, we're starting to get more detail in the picture. So every time I put a point on there and raise it like this, we're raising the tones that are within the picture, starting from the lowest to the highest, right here. So I can continue to raise these. Now, okay. Now, okay. See this here? This is what, this is, since this is a pixel base, or a bitmap shape, or a bitmap program, the picture is breaking up into blocks here. These are pixels down here. Okay, so anyway, so let's close this out. I'll start, now, okay, so that's how you would deal with a picture that is underexposed. We'll look at a picture that is overexposed now. Here's the opposite program, or the opposite problem. We have too much light because sunlight is coming up from here, and the aperture on the camera is open too far, so it's getting way too much light. And what that's doing is bleaching out the detail in this area. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the curves again. Wait a minute. Oh, wait. Sorry. I have to open it up first here. Okay, overexposed. Open. Okay, so here we have our. Oh crap. Oh boy, hold on a second. There we go. Let's see, move this over. Okay, so here is our, I don't need this. Here is our overexposed picture. So, again, now, that's not the one. This is the one we're going to use. There we go, curves. Okay. Now, in this one, you can see all the information here is all in the highlights area, and not so much in the shadow areas, which would be down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop the shadows in here to give the picture more detail. Okay. So that's how you would go about fixing an overexposed picture. Other uses in here, probably retouching of photos is probably the most popular use of Photoshop or image editing programs today. And well, I'll show you, I'll show you a few examples here. Wait a minute. I'll show you the before. Most of it's used to enhance the pictures, but not always. Sometimes it's also to well, that's something we'll get into. Okay, here's Madonna. She's getting a little older, so she needs a little more work done on her. Whereas here we got the bags under her eyes. With some good photo retouching, we smooth that all out. And she doesn't look to be 50, whatever she is now. So anyway, here's the before and the after of Photoshop retouching. And you can do this all in GIMP, just like you can in Photoshop. So let's see, here's another, wait a minute. We'll try, oh, okay. There's there's something that happened recently where they said models were being portrayed as too thin, and it was giving a bad, it was giving young teenage girls a bad self-image. They didn't want to show models this skinny right here. So in this, we've taken this very thin model and plumped her up a bit here. So there's another example of retouching, but in a different direction. And then, thirdly, we have Photoshop used for evil purposes. Here we show Amy Winehouse if she had gained a lot of weight. So again, these are all things that are done with image editing programs, some for the purposes of good, some for the purposes of evil. Okay, so another thing that's used quite frequently, there's group shots of people, and say for instance it could be a band. Somebody leaves the band and they don't feel like paying for new promo shots, so they remove the head of one person and put on the head of another person. And with this, it can be done pretty seamlessly. Like, let's see here. We'll try this one again. The way, as far as tearing apart pictures in, I need to open this. Hold on a second. No, not that one. Hold on a second. Okay, we'll open a new one. For instance, the way you go about tearing photos apart is you need to select an image or a part of the image. That's how you, when you're working with images in GIMP, the first thing you're going to do is select an area that you're going to change, either change, move, or switch with something else. So normally you would take something like, you would go like this.
In your toolbox, are you right-clicking to give the description of the icon?
Yeah, okay. This here, I'm selecting, this is the Paths tool. And so what I would be doing is I click on this, left click, and it would go around, say, if I was going to remove Madonna's head, and this is quickly, and replace it with, say, Miley Cyrus's head. Then we would go like this, and I would, here is the Move tool over here that I click. Oh, that's not doing it. Okay. Well, anyway, another way to do it would be to delete it, and then I would then put in Miley Cyrus's head right here. But anyway, once you have selected the area you want to work on, that probably the hardest thing to using GIMP is learning how to make selections that are really exact, because wherever you take something out and put something in, you want a really smooth edge. And so selection, I mean, I just did that really fast and just, you know, just to show how you go about eliminating things. But the one of the things you end up having to spend a lot of time learning how to do is different ways of selecting within Photoshop. Now, as I was showing you before with changing tonality of the picture, like with underexposed or overexposed pictures, you can also selectively do that. Again, you can select an area, we'll use that same tool. You can select an area where you just want to work on, you don't want to adjust the whole thing, you just want to adjust part of it. So in here, I'll just take the sky background and work on that alone. So we would go, okay, color, curves. So here, you can see that I'm just working on the sky, whereas the foreground area is remains the same. So if, okay, we'll try something else here. If I wanted to work on the foreground, did I do that? Let me just see. Yeah. So I inverted my selection, so instead of having this up here selected, I selected this by hitting my Invert Selection tool. And now, as you can see, this area is changed while this area up here remains the same. Okay, so anyway, these are the things that you can do without too much experience. As far as everything else, there's just all kinds of things you can do. Here's the thing you should know though. Under each, there are a lot of menus. There are a lot of things under each of these, and learning where everything is and remembering that takes some time. So the learning curve is pretty steep on this, but you could be up and running and do like various tonal corrections pretty quickly. You know, on the internet there are various tutorials available. You could, in fact, if you were to just do a search that said GIMP tutorials, you'll get dozens of them, and it breaks it down to one process at a time, so it's not too overwhelming all at once. But this is a program that you can get a lot of use of, and how good you get at it will depend on how much time you put into it. So that's basically just a little. I just thought I'd give you a few examples of things that can be done in Photoshop. Any questions?
How do you get GIMP?
Oh, okay. Well, you just do a search. Oh, here's something else you should know. It's available on Linux platform, Windows, and Mac. So you would just go to well, if you're in Linux, you would go to the software. What do they call it? The software manager, software center. You would go to Software Center. Let me just show you. Oh, okay, that's right. If you get a machine from here with the Ubuntu on it, it's already installed. Now, if you don't have it, or if you want to put it on your Windows machine at home, just do a search for GIMP, and it'll take you to a website where it's at. If you have a different version of Linux, let me just see here.
Is that funny dog? Is that GIMP?
That's the, well, I guess that would be the mascot for the program. Okay, so anyway, so you would go here, it's installed already on this machine, but over here it would say install, you hit install, Linux will go get it, bring it back and install it for you. So, yeah, so that's it. So any other questions? Yes?
If having manipulated an image,
Mm-hmm.
like I take a picture, I manipulate it, and I send it to you.
Yeah.
And I say, look at this neat picture.
Right.
Can you kind of de-edit it to look at how it used to be?
Can I change
Can
it?
you change it? Me having sent it to you, can you change
Yes.
it?
Using this program
Well, that-
or Photoshop
yeah.
or,
Well, not changing, but just make sure you understand my question. can you change it back to how it was before I changed it? That's my question.
No.
So like a revert button or something.
No, there's, well, as you do your changes in GIMP, you have to save them. If you close the window out without saving, your picture will revert back to its original condition. So, I mean, it's not like, say, a PDF where you send it out and nobody cannot, or people can't edit it anymore. I mean, if you send me a picture, no, okay, your question, you send me a picture that you've manipulated.
Right.
Can I revert it back? No, because I don't have the saved original
I
version.
think the question is, does it save the history in the GIMP native format, XFB file, whatever?
I'm not sure.
It does.
It does?
Yeah, but when you can export it.
Oh, export it. Oh, wait a minute.
You go to file.
Right.
Or is it edit or file? Yeah.
Let's see.
With GIMP, there's two separate file formats. There's the internal GIMP format.
I don't see, why don't I see?
I think if you go to edit, then you can get an export. I think save as just gives you like all files that were there.
Let's see here. Oh, save as. You know what? I don't see this. I'm used to using version 2.8, and this is actually 2.6. Oh, just so you know, if you get your GIMP, you want version 2.8. That's the latest. And if you have an older version of Ubuntu, you might want to check. Let's see. How do you check? I guess you go over here, and you would go about. And this will tell you what your program version is. Now, the version that I have, which is the latest, is 2.8. And it might even be 2.8 point something by this point. I'm not sure. But, yeah, so that's how you find out what version you have. Any other questions? Yes?
Can you create, like in Photoshop, can you create the layers so you apply your
Yes.
changes on the layers instead of the image? That way you can change them and you can go back to the
Right.
ones.
Yes. Here we would go, tools, layer, right here. Here we'll put, here's your layers palette. Now, if I, once I, yeah, as he pointed out, when you're doing manipulations of your image, this would be referred as to non-destructive. If I just did it on this, changes I make, depending on what image manipulation is done, you can lose information. And so the way to avoid that is by making a layer and doing your corrections on the layers. Let me, hold on a second, tackle dialogues. Layers, okay. Okay, this shows your layers here. Another thing too, so I have an empty layer on top of this layer. I can add more layers just by going here and clicking this. And it asks you what size layer. Okay, this is, the default size is the size of the image already. If I want to see through this layer to the one, this is the lowest layer right here. Every time you add a layer, you're adding one on top of this. So I write okay, and there's my new layer. And so I can keep adding layers. You know, I don't know what the limit is, but you can add quite a few. And then you can also change the opacity of layers. So whatever it is that you put on top of this image, you can either, if the opacity is all the way up, you won't see through it. But as you go this way and reduce the opacity, you can see through it. Let me just, here, I'll give you an example. We'll go like this. I'll make a square. and I will fill it. Let's see. Oh, try this. Try it. All right. Okay. Okay. So as you can see, there it's solid, and then we start to see through it. So applications of this would be where, for instance, you might have lettering or something like that, and you'd want to see partially through it. So solid, totally transparent, and in between. So yeah, that's layers. Any other questions? Yeah.
What kind of support is there for like plugins or?
Okay, plugins. There are people that are creating plugins, and there's a site on the internet that where people, as they create these plugins, post them. I'll just show you, for instance. Here's the filters that it comes with, the plugins as you refer to. There's quite a few. A lot of these filters are the same as Photoshop, and like Photoshop, there are companies that will just make sets of plugins that you can buy. There are people making plugins and filters open source, and they put those up for free, available on the internet. So just doing a search for GIMP plugins will take you to a site where you can find those. And there's hundreds of them out there. So again, free, free, free. Okay, any other questions? Okay, oh yeah.
You can save it in any format and you can upload it in any other program.
Yeah, let me show you, well, let's look at what save as. No. Normally, in the latest version, when you save, it'll say export, and export will list all the different file formats that you can save as. Let's see, what different?
Go to save as and go to save as and at the bottom, click it. And then down there, select file type.
Oh, there we are. Okay, right.
And then you go to list all the.
Okay, here's all the different formats that you can save it in. So as you can see, there's quite a few. JPEGs, PNGs are the most popular. You can save it as a Photoshop image and then import it into Photoshop if there's something you can do, and if you have Photoshop. Yeah, TIFFs. So TIFFs, JPEGs, PNGs, those will be the most popular formats. And you would keep it, if you've done some image manipulation, you want to keep that, then you would save as a GIMP file if you were going to have all those manipulations work, or be editable when you open it again. Okay, so I guess that wraps it up, and get GIMP, it's free, A lot of fun to play with.
Is there a website that you can get it off of?
If you just do